Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is August the 3rd, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Let's see, it's been a great Thursday. I guess we'll get into my day. A little bit of personal news to start it off. We worked. Work was pretty good. It was weird, right? Because I literally started my day and my trash compactor was already filled. So I was like, awesome, they haven't come yet. They're late. Which is the people who take my trash, which is Rumpke. If you're, a national local yokel, you'll know what Rumpke is. But so they were running late for a very important date, which is me doing my job. So I was just lounging. Actually, let me tell you, because I haven't talked about this, I guess, on the pod, but it's not big news or whatever. But I finally decided, or it really clicked, and I was like, oh, I found a way to read a book I was trying to read, and this book was Das Kapital. Das Kapital. There you go. Yeah, the Karl Marx's book, you know. So I finally was able to find that. So I've been trying to read it, and I will say I'm not too far in. I think I'm on maybe like the second or third chapter. So we're doing this slowly. I'm almost like micro dosing it, and I will say it is interesting. I've enjoyed it so far, but at the same time, I'm also I'll just say it bluntly. It's very boring. It's very dry in that regard. I'm like, I'm gonna let my man Carl cook. I know where he's going. He starts talking about Lenin, and I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Like Lenin the guy? No, of course not. No, that man's not born yet by the time he's making this. No, Lenin, like threads. I was like, okay. And we're building on the flavor. We're talking about money, and I'm sure he's gonna get somewhere with it. But so I'm reading this, and I'm literally falling asleep. I'm like falling asleep in like the maintenance area because there's just nothing to do while I wait for the Rumpke to come. But they finally come, so that's good. I finally get back to work. Yada yada yada. Work was work. It was fine. Um, then I do little errands, do a little workout, wind up going back into the same area and hang out with some friends at this Scottish like style pub kind of vibe called Dingle House. I'm sure I've referenced it before on the podcast. And nice little eatery pub kind of thing. They have IPAs, which I really enjoy. A bunch of other beers as well. But I got some beer. I got some pretzel bites, and that was very yummy. So yeah, I'm in a good mood. I'm feeling good. And also, one of my friends let me have one of their what they call Irish egg rolls, which overall are okay. I've given my review on them before. They're pretty good. They're amazingly yummy when they are free, especially with that like sauce. I think it's like some kind of like Thousand Islands blend of something. But yeah, that hits. That was smacking. So I had a good time. I'm in a good mood. I'm very jovial right now on the beat. So yeah. Also, a little bit of precursor news, I guess, before we get into the news. A little bit of amuse bouche, if you will. Lizzo did make a statement referencing my other episode where we talked about that shit. Bananas, dildos, a lot of shit, a lot of body negativity. But essentially, I'm just gonna no references. Just she did make a statement. She put it out on X, formerly known as Twitter. More or less, defending herself, saying that the accusations were false, saying like I normally don't come out and say anything to these kind of things. I just let them, ride. But I want to come out and say I didn't do what they're saying I did. So yeah, we will see how this lawsuit plays out for sure. I'll definitely give you more updates there. But I'm that's still like crazy to me, and I mean people are still obviously talking about it. And I don't blame them. I didn't see that shit coming. That wasn't on my bingo card for the year. All right. I'm gonna do my classic little startup, and then we can get into some news. More news, I guess. I'm already giving you appetizers. All right, let's start with Al Jazeera. Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi granted partial pardon. Let's see here. Myanmar's ruling military has granted partial clemency to deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi, pardoning the Nobel laureate in 5 of the 19 offenses for which she was convicted and jailed for a total of 33 years following a coup 2 years ago, according to media reports. The pardons announced on state media Tuesday were part of an amnesty granted to more than 7,000 prisoners to mark Budapest Lent. So, this story we've been talking about for a while now, since the coup started. Um, I'm happy to hear that she's at least out of prison. So this is good news. That's a dub. But it's still unfortunate that she's under house arrest, that she still has to like appeal and will probably lose said appeals, against the other charges that are still, stacked against her. It seems that, the military is doing this more or less, for appeasement, because of the time frame. But maybe it's also because, like, hey, maybe this potentially dodges some more sanctions or things like that. So maybe that's part of the reason. Also, I listened to the story on the BBC News, and they talked about how, like, maybe this is just them, speculating, postulating. That's where I'm looking for, yeah. Where it's like eventually the military has to stop and have an election. Like, even if it is putting in a military person into power, they still have to, like, have a government. Like, they still haven't done that yet. And I'm inclined to agree with that thought, that statement. That makes sense. Like, even though this isn't like kind of quote unquote a war, like this is a conflict that they do have to eventually get to a point where they are at least masquerading as like some kind of democracy or some kind of like, once again, government that's not just military on top overruling over everyone. That being said, there is still a strong resistance, from what I've heard. I mean, granted, it's so sad to hear what, the people of Myanmar are up against, and just how brutal, how constant the Myanmar army is. They will do like these bombing runs that are just so just heavy. Just on the ground oppression on people. The shit's hard, but the people are still fighting. They still have mounted resistance. They stop what they're doing and say, "Look, I'm about the freedom of my people now. Like this is what it's about for me. This is my focus." And I'm still rooting for those people. I'm still hoping that somehow they can find a way to make this shit happen. But it's definitely an underdog story. I did want to just give that update. House arrest though, it's got to be prison for sure. But it's just crazy how this Myanmar army can just be like, we changed our mind. Actually, we're done. We this doesn't feel good anymore. We want to actually throw you back in jail, and they can do that. It's at will right now. Like there's just no like they are the order as they see it, as they want to dole it out. So still fucked up over there. Still heavy shit. Let's go ahead and move along though. Let's take it to the States. Good old USA. From the Associated Press. Fitch downgrades U.S. credit rating, citing mounting debt and political divisions. Okay, I gotta be real here. When I heard Fitch ratings, my head just immediately was like, wait, like, are you telling me like Abercrombie and like Fitch, they like do credit or something now? Like times have changed? Also, side news, again, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I'm just filled to the brim with this shit. I was scrolling through my little news appy thing, looking at shit, and I guess this was like some kind of like editorial or something. It was like, I went to Abercrombie and it's nothing like it was. And I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, now it looks like an H&M and an American Eagle had a baby. Like that's just what it looks like now. Like, cool, I guess. Like, they have like nicer pieces in a way, like a little bit like I don't know if I'm maybe like haute couture. I don't know, modern contemporary. It's fine. Like it looks cute. There definitely still some like older pieces that like felt like cute prep shit, nice little sweaters. But I'm like, this doesn't feel like a Renaissance or anything. I don't fucking know. Anyway, though, back to Fitch ratings, which is nothing to do with clothing. I just went on a tangent there for no reason. Okay. Fitch Ratings has downgraded the United States government's credit rating, citing rising debt at the federal, state, and local levels, and a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the past 2 decades. And you know what? Honestly, preach. I agree. The rating was cut Tuesday one notch to AA plus from AAA, the highest possible rating. The new rating is still well into investment grade. So overall, I mean, it seems like we're fine from what I'm hearing. Like this isn't like a massive blow or anything like this. It might affect, like our ability to borrow money, or like might make things more expensive down the line somewhere, shape or form. I don't know. You guys know I'm guys, gals, MBs. Y'all know I'm not an economist. Shit, that's why I'm trying to read Das Kapital. But at the end of the day, it's still news. Like this is still relevant. I remember hearing about this, learning about this when we were talking about the debt ceiling shit, and we had Republicans in the House like literally fighting tooth and nail for this shit. Like, oh, we're gonna stand our ground. Like, we're gonna fight this out. And trust me, I'm still mad about that. I'm still like, man, Republicans were dumb as hell for that. That was such a fucking idiotic move. This is now part of that aftermath. But once again, I'm still mad at Biden for not handling that shit months in advance like he could have. He didn't fucking handle it. You know what I mean? He wasn't the helmsman on that shit. Classic Joe. So it is what it is at the end of the day. I have heard Janet Yellen, she's in this article more or less saying like, this isn't a big deal, they're blowing it up, we're actually doing great, actually America's so cool right now. Obviously paraphrasing, but more or less she's just saying like, hey, we've actually like bounced back from COVID, things are good, even though like our interest rate is just getting higher and higher. I get the sentiment, but at the same time, the government instability is a big reason for the season here. Like, at the end of the day, we are going at each other's necks over the most simple of things. I talked about it weeks ago where we're talking about our military. Like, we still haven't promoted people. Because Tuberville is like, you know what? Until you don't allow people to have abortions in the military, until they can't travel for that shit, we're not comping that shit, then we're not doing it right. And it's like, bro, why don't you just fucking hit the bench, coach? So, once again, I get what Fitch Ratings is saying here. I stand with Abercrombie and Fitch here, all right? And also it's kind of, I don't want to say this is a nothing burger. I do think it might be more relevant down the road, but oh my gosh, what is it? Jamie Dimon, Chase Bank CEO. He's like, this shit doesn't even matter. And honestly, Fitch is out of pocket for even saying it. So, a lot of, people in the upper echelons of money and finance are trying to say this is no big deal. You should not worry. And fuck Fitch. Who is Fitch? They're bums. They're losers. Initially people were talking about Mooney. I don't know much about that. This is shit over my head and pay grade. But, I haven't heard them chirp or anything like that, so maybe they are onto something with that. But I wanted to talk about it because, I love shitting on my own country. Shit, I'll say it. I'll fucking say it. I am proud to be an American to an extent. I got an American flag somewhere in this goddamn house. I got on a fucking tank top. But, I also see the dumb shit America does day in and day out. I also, can look back into the past and, with the power of technology and just history I can't say that word right now, but you know what I mean? Like, it's there. Like, I don't care what Florida's trying to hide. Like, at the end of the day, we are who we are. And you got to call that shit out when you see it. And sometimes we're not the smartest people in the room. Maybe not. Okay, anyway, let me move along before I spiral out. From ABC News. Pittsburgh. I don't know why I started that way. That's terrible for what we're about to talk about. Pittsburgh synagogue shooter sentenced to death. Families open up about relief. Now, this is an update on the Robert Bowser. I think it's Bowers. That's what it is. The man who gunned down 11 worshipers in a Pittsburgh synagogue in the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in American history has been sentenced to death, capping one of the darkest chapters in the city's history and bringing relief to the families of the anguished victims. Yeah, Robert Bowers. I was, waiting to hear about the verdict, and I'm not really surprised. I said my 2 cents on it. I would have preferred him to just be in prison at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like a lot of times you see in these stories, what does the shooter usually do when they're done at the end of their spree? They try to fucking kill themselves because they know at the end of the day they don't truly want to go through a trial, no matter how sociopathic or whatever the fuck they think they are in that moment. And two, they don't want to go to prison. They don't want to be in prison for the rest of their fucking lives, like in a fucking concrete fucking coffin. But I do also understand, despite my opinions and reservations on the death penalty, why in something like this, especially if you're looking at it from this perspective of the families, why you'd want that. Why you're like, no, I'm okay with it. I want to see that. I want that to happen. There was another story in Singapore. Someone who was trafficking X amount of heroin. It was like grams, like double digits. They were executed. And I didn't cover that story, but I felt the same way about that. I'm like, there's no reason to do this. I don't care who you are, where you are. Like, at one point, you definitely could have convinced my Bible thumping ass that, like, that's the way. There's always gonna be room for eye for an eye if it's this big or this bad. And granted, something that bad has never happened to me. I haven't been a victim of a school shooting or a massacre here or there at this church or this place, or bombing, whatever. But I just feel like that's not us being forward as a society, saying, hey, we should just kill people. We should just eye for an eye them, put them down like a dog. Let's pay this money. It does rub me wrong personally. But at the same time, I get it. I understand it. And it's news, so I wanted to cover it. It was a unanimous decision. Something else I did want to read here were the victims. The name of the victims. I do try to do that. I don't think I did in the last one when we covered this initially. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil and David Rosenthal, Daniel Stein, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Irving Younger, Melvin Wax, and Rose Mallinger. It's sad. I mean, these are people that, they had families. They're now gone. There are holes in people's lives that they're never going to be filled. It's very unfortunate what Bowser took away from, not Bowser, I'm sorry, Browser, but, what he took away from these people. And Bowers, god damn it, that's his fucking name. They tried to use the mental health defense. They, said, like, he had this kind of trauma that led to him being the way he was. But it's like, man, you were prolifically online about this shit. And not to mention, you go in this building, kill about half the people in the fucking room, and then have a shootout with the first responders. Like, you were coherent enough in all these moments to, like, go through all of this, and then to just be like, but I was just, I wasn't well in the head. And it's like, but you didn't do anything to get any help. You didn't do anything to stop yourself when you're writing all these manifestos and talking all this shit. So, I can understand what the victims and the family members are saying. Like, if you survive this shit, how are you gonna, hear someone be like, well, I just wasn't right in the head? Like, I can understand that. I get that. So yeah, I mean, this was a doozy of a toozy. I normally don't like to cover things that, I think this did take place before I was, before I knew, this is a 2018 thing. So, but just like the Lori Vallow Daybell thing, it was just so big. I just really felt compelled to cover it. And so, here we are. All right, we got one more thing to cover. we've been meandering around. I'm sorry about that. It's really it's a classic episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. You know what it is. The real ones know. If you're a new one, hell yeah, you're dope. I love you. Nice to meet you. Also, I believe it was Lump 72. I gotta give a shout out. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube. That's dope. I say it every episode. This is me saying it now. Those mean a lot. That's a lot. All right, let me do my thing. But here's to you, Lump. Oh. Oh. Okie dokie. Okie dokie artichoke. From Newsweek. Tears as Tater Tot, the kitten born with malformed limbs, dies suddenly. Now, I don't know if you guys were hip to this. If you're not, terminally online like me, understandable. But you might have seen a few memes or pictures of this cat, and it was this cat that looked so surly and angry. It was this little kitten with like crazy little hair, and he was in these little casts, and sitting straight up, and he just looked so mad. He was growling and scruffy. That was Tater Tot, and the last time I had saw Tater Tot, he was getting his little cast removed, and I didn't know about it, like why he had the cast on. I assumed he had broken little paws or something, little broken limbs, but apparently he was malformed. And Tater Tot, the brave kitten who captured the hearts of animal lovers across the internet, has sadly died. So he was, I believe, found by a volunteer from Kitty Crusade, a small nonprofit animal rescue organization in Utah. And poor little guy had just a bunch of issues, had a cleft palate, and then also all 4 of his legs were malformed. So he couldn't really walk, he couldn't really make anything happen for himself, but he was doing his best. And he always looked angry, but it was like this kind of like spiteful determination. And I think in so many ways, it just was like, I don't know, I don't want to say inspiring or anything like that, but like, man, kitties, man, they really get you. And so this story just, I think it captivated a lot of fucking people. I've seen a lot of art. They do have posted some art on this Newsweek article that you can also once again find on X or TikTok. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see if I can find the quote here. Today, our tiny spud passed away suddenly in my hands. His energy has been slowly decreasing over the last week or so, and with how sudden his passing was today, I truly think he had an enlarged heart and it couldn't keep up with him. One moment he was walking around, and the next he was gone. This was from Houghton, who was like, taking care of him at the foster and like posting the pictures and stuff like that. This tiny little potato has had such a profound impact on my heart, and I am so unbelievably happy I got to share him with the entire world. What started as me sharing some photos of a goofy new foster that I turned into an entire community focused on kindness, humor, and compassion. I am astounded at the reach Tater Tot's story had, and I cannot express to you how incredible it has been to see how he has impacted the world. Now, I'm a little emotional. Sadly gonna probably close it on this. My my only little cat, he actually like died last week, and he was Ollie. He was known to me as Ollie. Actually, I was definitely like the kind of cat dad person, whatever. Like, we can't have a cat. Like, literally, our apartment says we can't have a cat. Like, we can't do it. And my ex at the time, she was really like, gotta have his cat. Like he's a little trash kid. Like he needs help. He needs us. And I was like, we can't do it. And we were taking care of my dad at the time. And I remember, this is the man who raised me. He always told me I couldn't have like a cat or a pet or whatever for whatever reason. And so I grew to understand that. Whatever, fine. So I was like, okay, let's talk to him. Clearly, this is just going to back me up and we'll be done with this conversation. He was like, oh, no, we can do that. And I was like, what are you talking about, old man? What's happening here? What is happening? So next thing you know, we have this cat. He's a little orange tabby. This is another reason why this is just like, making me feel away. And I just wasn't a cat person. I at this point realized I was allergic to cats. So I was like, like this is just not gonna work for me. But okay, I guess we're gonna make this work. I guess we're gonna find a way. And at the time, I was like, okay, we'll just like pay like a deposit or whatever. Fine, we'll find a way to just all work out. It'll be a Disney movie. Sure. Um, Cute, adorable montage later. It turns out we were not allowed. We had to like go tooth and nail with the apartment. Didn't work out. We had to give up the cat. And I'm so thankful to my friend Thomas. We were like, old church friends. And he was able to take the cat and we rehomed him. And he was such a great cat dad. I remember seeing him, and every time I saw him, I was like, you look so good now, Ollie. And like, it was crazy because he was such a wild cat. I remember he would play with my feet and just be so crazy and like oh my god, you're so wild. And then he just became so chill post neuter, and I was like, good, this is great. This is your like post like Danny DeVito phase. You're gonna do great. And he lived a great life. And I just remember like looking through stories, and then I saw Thomas had posted that he had passed, and I was really sad, and I like cried like all morning getting ready for work. But R.I.P. Ollie, R.I.P. Tater Tot. If you got a cat, if you got a dog, if you got a little pet, give them little boops from me. And I'm not gonna shill today. Fuck that. Hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye bye. Mwah.